Good evening and welcome to the 2017 Military Service Appreciation Dinner. My name is Mike Yakima. I'm a U.S. Air Force intelligence officer, third year JD MBA student here at Stanford, co-president of the GSB Veterans Club and co-chair of tonight's dinner.
And my name is Nathan Brasher, also second year MBA student, Navy veteran, and I'm also co-chair of tonight's dinner.
We're going to begin tonight's program by presenting the colors, followed by the singing of the national anthem. The colors will be presented by a volunteer group from the Navy Operational Support Center San Jose, and the national anthem will be sung by Maxine Schlein, MBA class of 2017. Please stand and remain standing until the completion of the presenting of colors. Present the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. The Veterans Club is honored to have so many in attendance tonight, coming together to celebrate the customs and traditions of military service. This is the 9th year running of the Military Service Appreciation Dinner. This event began 8 years ago in a smaller room with fewer people, but for the same purpose, which is twofold. First, to bring together Stanford veteran alumni and current veteran students to honor and recognize and build camaraderie among one another. Second, to raise awareness among our classmates, faculty, and staff who are not from a military background. To those in attendance today not from a military background, we say thank you for your support. Tonight we're excited to honor Linda Huber, MBA class of 1986, who has exemplified the core values of honor, courage, and commitment in all that she has done, both in military service and outside of service. We're also very excited to hear from John Fenwick, MBA class of 2009, founder of Skybox Imaging. At this time, I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize some special people in attendance. First, we want to acknowledge 4 individuals here who are past recipients of tonight's award. And as I read your name, I invite you to stand. First, Professor Jack McDonald, MBA class of 1962. Second, Professor Charles O'Reilly. Third, Steve Denning, MBA class of 1978. And fourth, Tim Sullivan, MBA class of 1989. Gentlemen, thank you for your continued service and contributions to the Stanford veteran community. I'd also like to thank Dean Jonathan Levin for being here tonight and for recognizing the value that veterans bring to the diversity of the GSB. Next, I'd like to thank Jack Edwards, Director of Financial Aid at the GSB. Jack has made it his personal mission to take care of us veterans, so we want to thank him tonight. We also want to acknowledge Eli Lilly for sponsoring tonight's event. Nathan and I have also been privileged to work with a couple MBA ones who have been outstanding at contributing their efforts towards tonight's dinner. Those 2 MBA ones are Aaron Newman and Sean Rosenberg. In addition, there are a few staff members we'd like to acknowledge, including Becca Knopf, Kara Hanlon, and Caitlin Johnston, who have been working feverishly over the past year to ensure tonight's dinner would be a success. We'd also like to thank the many veteran alumni who are here tonight, and as well as those who could not be here tonight, for your continued support of the Veterans Club and the Stanford veterans community overall. Finally, there is one among us who is particularly special, and that is Bob Williams, U.S. Naval Academy class of 1945, and a naval aviator serving in World War II. With the number of World War II veterans quickly diminishing among our ranks, Bob, we're very honored to have you here tonight. To set the stage for you, for those of us who have served in uniform, it's sometimes difficult to enjoy evenings such as this. As we reflect upon our comrades in arms who are still forward deployed, and as we think about those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, we may find it somewhat selfish to sit here and enjoy such a luxury. However, it is for this purpose that we know that they fought that fight and paid that price, so that we'd have the freedoms and the luxuries and the safety to gather tonight and celebrate in their name. And so it is in their name that we gather together to honor them and have an enjoyable evening tonight. We're excited to hear from Linda and from John later tonight. But before we do so, we'd like to share with you a couple military traditions, that of the toasts, as well as the recognition of the prisoner of war missing in action table, which Nathan will conduct at this time.
As you entered the banquet hall this evening, you may have noticed a small table set in a place of honor. It is set for one. This table is our way of symbolizing the fact that there are members of our profession of arms who are missing from our midst, They are commonly called POWs, prisoners of war, or MIA, missing in action. We call them brothers. They are unable to be with us this evening, and so we remember them. This table set for one is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his oppressors. Remember. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember. The napkin is black, symbolizing the emptiness these warriors have left in the hearts of their families and friends. Remember. The single red rose displayed in a vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrade in arms who keep the faith, awaiting their return. Remember. The red ribbon tied so prominently on the vase is reminiscent of the red ribbon worn upon the lapel and chest of the thousands who bear witness to the unyielding determination to demand a proper accounting of our missing. Remember. The candle is lit, symbolizing the upward reach of their unconquerable spirit. Remember. A slice of lemon on the bread plate is to remind us of their bitter fate. Remember. There is salt upon the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us tonight. Remember. The chair is empty. They are not here. Remember. All of you who served with them and called them comrades, who depended on their might and aid and relied on them, for surely they have not forsaken you. Remember. Remember until the day they come home. Remember. Now, formal toasts are at the heart of the military's dining-in tradition. We ask all in attendance to participate with us in this toast. Please refer to your program for the order of toasts and the appropriate response. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you please stand and raise your glasses so that we may toast our armed forces.
Okay, could I get your attention? So welcome. We're going to start the after dinner program. So it's really wonderful. I'm John Levin. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School of Business, and it's wonderful to see so many of you here tonight. I'd like to start by thanking the student co-chairs who organized this event, Nathan Brasher, Aaron Newman, Mike Yakima, and Sean Rosenberg. Tonight, we celebrate the recipient of the Military Service and Leadership Award. The award is given to an outstanding Stanford alum who has served in the military, has an extraordinary record of leadership and outstanding achievement in business or business education. And this year's award recipient, Linda Huber, personifies this award. I am so pleased to welcome her here tonight. Linda's an MBA class of '86 and is the executive vice president and CFO of Moody's. She's served on the GSB's advisory council from 2008 to 2013. She's a former Army captain and the recipient of 2 meritorious service medals. She's also the first woman to be recognized with this award, and that has not been lost on people. I've received a number of emails in the last week about it. Her service to country and to her company and to her community, our community, make us proud to call her a GSBer. I'm going to introduce now our keynote speaker, but before doing that, I'd like to touch on 2 points. I'd like to say something about Stanford's engagement with the military and the role that veterans play as students here at the GSB. For many years, Stanford has had a tradition of engagement with the military, and a tradition also of serious thinking on issues of national security. Leaders here such as George Shultz and Bill Perry, Condi Rice have set the tone for this engagement. I came into contact with this tradition early in my faculty career when I spent a year as a national fellow at the Hoover Institution. The most interesting people that I met that year were the National Security Fellows. They were active military officers from each service branch. One of them was an Army captain. He'd written a brilliant PhD thesis about the failures of leadership during the Vietnam War. He actually left mid-year because the Iraq War started, but he went on later to pioneer counterinsurgency strategies in Tal Afar, and you'll of course know him as our current National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster. He remains one of the most impressive colleagues that I've had here at Stanford. David Kennedy, who's in Stanford's history department, has spoken about the importance of having military service members at Stanford as a way to connect our community with members of the armed forces, and how this need has become greater as service members are drawn from populations that are different than many of our students and faculty. His argument echoes a theme in President Eisenhower's famous farewell address when he talked about the fundamental relationship between the military and our citizenry. Of course, you'll all remember that Eisenhower was, at the time, was concerned about high defense spending. It was about 10% of GDP at that time. And he warned that only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together. His point was that the relationship between the military and civil society gives the United States an essential balance that is required for a strong democracy. He aspired to support a greater mutual understanding in order to strengthen our democratic interests and institutions. Here at Stanford, we serve an important role in supporting that understanding in order to balance the interests of security and the principles of liberty. And we support that integration by educating former and current military servicemen and women in our MBA and MSX programs, and in our Stanford Ignite program for post-9/11 military veterans. Some participants are still active when they're with us, and they return to their teams after they complete their time here. And each year, we also see our degree and non-degree programs launch or accelerate the careers of talented servicemen and women, often with spectacular results. Many of you here tonight are alums of the GSB who have done just this. I'm particularly proud to have here tonight the service members and military veterans who are currently in our MBA and MSX programs. This group includes 48 veterans, including 14 MSX students from the US, Israel, the Republic of Korea, the United Kingdom, Singapore, member of the US Department of Defense, and a significant other from the US Army. As students, You bring a rich perspective to the GSB that helps make our school and our community such a powerful place to learn and to grow. We appreciate the ideas that you bring to our classes based on the lessons that you've had during your service. The range of experience you bring is distinctive among your classmates. You bring a perspective on leadership and teamwork. You share a notion deeply ingrained of service and sacrifice. Your classmates and I admire this. At the same time you bring these skills to the school, you also face some distinctive challenges. Making the transition back to the classroom can be a huge change, especially for those of you who come from a combat environment. And transitioning from the structured and hierarchical setting of many military postings to an environment such as this one that is largely free of all constraints is not always easy. Earlier this year, I had a former fighter jet pilot tell me how difficult and challenging his first year as a GSB student had been, and that he'd found his classmates intimidating. I told him I thought that his classmates might have found his experiences intimidating as well. I think it is inspiring that our military students rise to the occasion, share their knowledge with their classmates, and excel as leaders at the GSB and beyond. And the role of the Military Service Appreciation Dinner is to bring together students and alumni, to recognize your importance within our community, and to celebrate all of you, including those who are preparing to launch a new chapter in your professional careers. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'd now like to introduce our keynote speaker, John Fenwick. John is a Stanford MBA, class of 2009. He's a former active duty U.S. Air Force officer. He is a distinguished graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, and prior to arriving at the GSB, he earned his master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science from MIT. As an Air Force officer, John was responsible for managing a range of national intelligence and military space programs focused on transitioning new capabilities from the lab into orbit. In 2009, John and his Stanford classmates, Dan Birkenstock, Julian Mann, and Qing-Yu Hu, founded Skybox Imaging, the satellite imagery startup providing commercial high-resolution satellite imagery and high-definition video and analytics through a fleet of low-orbit satellites. In 2014, Google acquired Skybox Imaging, as Linda said to me earlier today, achieving the ultimate goal for a GSB alum, selling your company to Google within 5 years. John went on to become head of Spacecraft Operations at Google, and a few weeks ago, you may have read, he left Google in a largely secret hiring event to possibly join Apple, where we think that he might be leading a new software team, possibly focusing on satellite imagery delivery. I think this may be classified information even here in the business sector. So please join me in welcoming John Fenwick to the GSB.
Well, thanks, Dean Levin, and thanks, Vets Club, for selecting me to say a few words tonight. It's kind of surreal. I've personally come full circle. My 5 veteran GSB classmates and I actually created the first of these dinners back in 2009. Now, before you bestow a ton of credit on me personally, I need to admit that I was pretty adamant that we needed to hold this dinner on folding tables in the downstairs basement of the old GSB cafeteria and order in pizza delivery, because I was absolutely 100% convinced that no one would come, let alone pay. If I recall correctly, I even was really strongly opposed to ordering extra breadsticks. Now, luckily, my classmate Terry Geddes had the vision and foresight to put a real event together with real tablecloths and real food. And 100 or so folks did show up, and some of you were actually there at the time. We were reminiscing earlier today. And we were ecstatic about how that all came together. But I don't think any of those in my classmates would ever realize and could imagine this: that the outpouring of the support from the GSB community and how much of an institution and point of pride this particular event has become over the years. And I certainly could never have imagined being the keynote. It's just kind of awesome. So anyway, I tell the story about pizza and folding tables and breadsticks because it's a reflection of my own personal ingrained aversion to taking risks. And I brought that to the GSB from my Air Force and Pentagon experiences. In the military world that many of us came from, and me in particular, only one thing matters, and that's to be right every single time, even if that makes taking way more time and effort and dollars to guarantee that 100% correctness. In my old world of multi-billion-dollar reconnaissance satellites, there's no appetite for anything less than perfection, as the design and build times are decades and the stakes are so high that just because there was just a small handful of crown jewels. And actually, my last 2 years of active duty were spent on Capitol Hill, lobbying Congress to preserve the continuity of one of those cornerstone classified satellite programs that had a proud 35-year legacy of little to no innovation. And my job was to discount any and all commercial or startup alternatives to that institution. I must say that I did do my job quite well, and kept that status quo gravy train just humming along for that couple years. So when I departed the Beltway and the Pentagon and the Air Force to come to the GSB, I was very much a well-honed product of the military-industrial complex. And so with that as the backdrop, I think it's pretty remarkable that the GSB reshaped me, of all people, into a risk-taking entrepreneur, especially one chasing the very ideas that I was in charge of poo-pooing in and around Capitol Hill. So Skybox. Skybox started off as a cute class project that we called TunaSat. Yeah, TunaSat. Nothing more than that. My co-founders and I promised ourselves that we'd keep working on this project until we hit a dead end, fully expecting that the dead end, when everyone told us no and we'd call it quits, would be at the end of the class, or maybe a few months after that. We always assumed that this was something that was a finite duration, but a great way to learn and put in practice everything that we were doing at the GSB and learning every day. And so it was very surprising to us that at every turn, someone always gave us a yes to keep on going with this idea. So mercifully, we changed our name from TunaSat to Skybox, and off we went. And we ended up gathering real momentum, and I think in large part due to the remarkably strong GSB tailwind. I think that tailwind took a number of facets, but I think one, of course, is the parade of successful founders that comes through class, and we just lap up like Kool-Aid. I think the tremendous school support resources, like the career management and entrepreneur centers, as well as the proximity to all that Sand Hill Road capital up the street, that our professors made all the warm intros to get our foot in the door. But I think all that said, the reality is that the GSB is so special as a springboard because for those of us like me who crave stability, and I over-optimize every aspect of my career path, that we can still, as students and recent alums of the GSB, just shrug our shoulders and go off and try to do something from scratch. Because we always know that there's a totally reasonable employment path in big tech or consulting that wasn't going to go away. And so I looked at the startup fling that absolute worst case, I'd have a good story to tell at the bar or even a fancy dinner. So, but the story of how my co-founders and I built Skybox is actually pretty boring and old hat to a big chunk of folks in this room because it's become one of the standard case studies in the core entrepreneurship course, Formation of New Ventures. The Skybox case is actually become infamous for its length. It's about 25 pages of wall-to-wall text. So for you current first years who are going to be taking the class next semester, apologies in advance. But even those 25 pages can't capture all the ups and downs of what our past 9 years look like, taking this big, hairy idea and trying to make it real. Now, so I have got some nuggets here, but I can't promise you first years that these will bail you out when George Foster or Scott Brady cold calls you. But here's a couple of summary cliff notes gleaned from the Skybox case itself. The first one is, you guys are crazy. Second one, you guys are a crapshoot at best. Third, now that you're up and going, you guys are screwed. So I got a short anecdote on each one of those kind of macro points. So the first one, you guys are crazy. We were told that a lot when we were up and going. We were told that definitely by all my old Pentagon buddies, by all of our friends and classmates, by our significant others, and we're told we were crazy by about every single investor out there. And even after we found somebody to write us a check, there were still many, many moments of self-doubt. I think the most vivid memory I have of that is the day that we moved out of my living room into our first office. It was windowless, crappy, and really cold. We walked in, and this place is 100% empty, and the four of us we sat like cross-legged style in the center of the room, stared at each other for a couple minutes, and then shrugged our shoulders and got busy. Our first move was scoring a gigantic boardroom table for free on Craigslist. We dragged it into the office and then realized that this table was physically longer than the room that we had to put it into. So what do? We just sawed off a big hunk of that table and crammed it all in there. And so it literally took up the entire room. So then, every time we had a board meeting, now mind you, our lead investor, 80 years old, our lawyer, not much younger than that, everyone had to crawl underneath the table to get to the chairs on the other side of the room to be able to have a board meeting. So I think the macro point there is we started from nothing and just kind of MacGyvered our way through the most pressing problems that were staring us in the face at every moment. And we did that over and over and over again for years and years on end. So the second cliff note is you guys are a crapshoot. We ended up going through quite a few bet the company decisions over the years. I liken it to going to a Vegas roulette wheel and putting all the money on red, and then winning, and then doubling down and putting all that money on red again 6 or 7 times in a row. We found the startup life to be the art of making decisions in what amounts to an information vacuum. At the outset of this adventure, we naively signed up with Elon Musk to launch our little spacecraft into space on one of his rockets. About a year into that, he pulled the rug out from underneath us to go build big rockets for NASA. And so when Elon dumped us, we naturally went with the next best alternative, hitching a ride off a decommissioned 60s-era Russian nuclear missile that's in an active-duty missile field in Kazakhstan. So literally, you pull the warhead out and you put our satellite in. It's a 1-for-1 swap. But it was literally our only option because we were out of both money and time. So we held our breath, of course, that the rocket wouldn't blow up on the ride up. To monitor this, there wasn't any video monitoring of the launch. There was literally just a single Russian guy, military guy, who's there on base with binoculars, narrating the whole thing on a staticky handheld radio, and then retransmitted through a satellite phone back to our office in Mountain View. And sort of the irony of ironies is that my lowest grade at the Air Force Academy in 4 years was Russian language class. So listen, I was only listening intently for swear words, because that's all I could remember. And turns out there was no swearing, only cheering, and then vodka toasts, and our all-in bet ended up paying off. So I think looking back, for all of our moxie, for all of our hustle, we were very fortunate to survive all of those binary outcomes. I realized that I wouldn't be here telling any of these stories if just one of those coin flips had turned out the other way. All right, so the third and last cliff note is, now that you're up and going, you guys are screwed. Even with all that good fortune along the way, we still had to execute flawlessly on a shoestring every time. All right, we're a startup. It's kind of capital intensive to do what we were doing, put things in space. So we could only afford to hire one smart person in each area of our venture. You guys know how they say trust but verify? Like, we could only do the trust thing. There was no verify. So when our first spacecraft went up on that Russian rocket, each one of those complex piece parts on the satellite was hand-built by just one smart engineer. And each of them crossing their fingers that their particular piece would work and work perfectly. We only had enough cash for that one spacecraft, so we were going to be bankrupt within weeks if this all didn't work and work the first time. So when we turned the spacecraft on for the first time in orbit, the rocket didn't blow up, got the spacecraft, we turned it on, got it stable, and at that point thought we were home free. Like, we're good to go. So we're just about to take our first picture of Earth with our very first spacecraft, prove this entire business out, when the spacecraft tumbled out of control. The next time around the Earth, we got it stable again, and then it flaked out on us in exactly the same way. This kept happening again and again, 15 times a day. So what do? Well, all of us could only look over and stare at Ronnie, who is the single spacecraft control engineer, and hope he could eventually figure out what was wrong and tell the spacecraft how to fix itself. So I brought Ronnie a lot of coffee over the next 2 or 3 weeks and gave him lots of words of encouragement. Ronnie went back and he rewrote line by line all, X number of thousand lines of code, and eventually figured out that he had a single sign error in one line of code. It's like -1 to 1. That was causing our spacecraft to flake out. So he flipped the sign, the spacecraft stayed in control, we took the first picture, and then we were bought by Google immediately thereafter. So I think the point is, if Ronnie or any of our other engineers were 10% less gifted and talented, 10% less diligent and hardworking and competent, that positive outcome does not happen, clear as day. So we had to resort to what amounted to be blind trust in each of our teammates, and it ultimately paid off. And it's hard to put in words how amazing the feeling is when everyone delivers to accomplish something that's truly remarkable. So in summary, from the case, I've absorbed a few macro lessons from my Skybox startup experience. One task and one step at a time, heads down, ignoring all the naysayers. Make or break decisions often come down to semi-educated guesswork. And finally, the importance of individual heroics to carry the day. So, funnily enough, I believe that some of these three are similar, or if not identical, leadership lessons that a lot of these folks, you guys in the room, have gleaned from your frontline active duty military experiences over in the sandbox and elsewhere. That said, it took me until I took off my Air Force blue suit, extracted myself out of the deep, dark Pentagon basement to live and breathe, building a venture from scratch, and to learn these truths myself. And I just couldn't be more grateful for the GSB as the springboard for these learnings. As I stand here thinking about the 8 previous veterans dinners that came before this, I'm struck by how my own personal and professional growth has truly mirrored the growth of this event over the last 8 years. It's like breadsticks for everybody. It's kind of amazing. And I think this event and being up here is something I am personally tremendously proud of. So thank you all.
John, thank you for sharing that remarkable story. For those of us about to graduate, I think it's a reminder of just how little we've accomplished at this point when we hear stories like yours. Also, thanks for your work putting this dinner together. I think it's safe to say at this point we've grown past pizza and breadsticks. Every year at the Military Service Appreciation Dinner, the Veterans Club hands out the Service and Leadership Award to one exceptional alumni. When we select this award, we look at a wide range of criteria, including professional achievement, military career, as well as service and philanthropy. To be considered for this award is an honor, and winning it requires a long career of exceptional achievement. And tonight's winner is certainly no exception. Our pastoral of winners includes, among other things, a former Secretary of State, a Medal of Honor winner, numerous CEOs, fund managers, and distinguished professors. Tonight, I'm here to introduce our 2017 winner, Miss Linda Huber. And despite her exceptional career, Linda's not one to typically self-promote. In fact, we were introduced to her when she called up one of our members, co-president George Hodgen, to congratulate him on completing his first year. You see, George, a former Navy SEAL, like a lot of us, is here on the Yellow Ribbon Scholarship, and Linda is his sponsor. So she's not one to brag about her own accomplishments, which is great because tonight I get to do that. First off, you should know that she's the daughter of an Army Major General who served in the Korean War. And because of this, Linda set her sights on a career in the Army early on in an era when it was not common for women to do so. To give you some perspective, she went to the ROTC department at Lehigh in 1976, graduated in 1980, and that's the same year as the first ever class from West Point with female graduates. That same year, she graduated from U.S. Army Airborne School and then reported to a light infantry division in Fort Ord, where she was deployed 270 days out of the year. After 2 years there, she rotated to this area to do protocol work in the Reagan administration, which, and I think I can safely say this now, was cover for her real duties as an intelligence officer. Deciding that she hadn't had enough of challenges, in 1984 she applied to business school once and to one institution, and we're grateful that she got into the GSB because she graduated 2 years later in the class of 1986. After career investment banking and working for several professional advisory firms, she took a job as the VP of Corporate Development at Pepsi because, and these are her words, she wanted to be able to move the needle for more people. You see, in typical GSB fashion, she wasn't content just making money. She had to make a difference in as many people's lives, and as many lives as many people as well. Today, she's the Chief Financial Officer for Moody's Corporation, a public company with over 10,000 employees. She's also on the board of the Bank of Montreal, which is a $50 billion public company in its own right. I would say that now she has the ability to move the needle for plenty of people. In addition to her professional duties, Lynn has started both the Veterans Employees and Women's Employee Resource Group at Moody's. She also volunteers her time with the Veterans on Wall Street group in New York and has previously been a member of the GSB Advisory Council. All these accomplishments I've listed so far would certainly qualify for the award, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another area of her life where she's been a success as well. You see, Linda's mother to 4 kids. And she's done this in a dual career household. Unfortunately, none of them could be here tonight because they're all off being successful in their own right. 2 of them are in high school. One is a junior at Columbia University, and the eldest, Andrew, is an associate with Goldman Sachs in Hong Kong. And when I interviewed Andrew, he had this to say about his mother. He said, "She taught me hard work and to always treat others with respect. Even though both my parents were working growing up, she was always there when I needed her, and always looked out for others despite her busy schedule. I will always look up to my mom." The best part of planning this entire dinner has been getting to know the past awardees and just learning from their experience and the life lessons that they learned the hard way. Linda, I want to thank you personally for your time in this process. It's been fantastic. For the students in the room, Linda's an example of all that hard work, dedication, and the values instilled in military service can do in the civilian world. She's been an exceptional Army officer, an exceptional giver, is currently an exceptional corporate leader, and an exceptional parent. With that, I'd like to invite the Vets Club co-presidents Mike Yakima and George Hodgen up to the stage. And I'd like you all to stand and join me in congratulating our 2017 GSB Service and Leadership Award winner, Miss Linda Huber.
Mike, George, and Nathan, thank you very much for that kind introduction. Thank you for tracking down my hardworking eldest son, Andrew, at Goldman Sachs in Hong Kong for his input. You guys went above and beyond, and all of you guys are okay even though you weren't Army officers. I'd like to have all the Army officers in the room, present and former, please stand up. Sorry to do this, but the ground pounders rule the night. Okay, Monday of this week, I got around to thinking about what I would say in these remarks. And I had to coordinate with John Fenwick, and that was a very bad first step to take. I realized that John was incredibly friendly, well-spoken, and as I was starting, John had, of course, already completed his remarks. I had a tough act to follow because John is indeed a rocket scientist. He embodies all that's sexy and hot about the GSB in 2017. Aside from being a good human being, a veteran, a husband, and a father, I kid you not, when I talk with him, his 6-month-old baby was appropriately screaming in the background. So aside from all that, he's an engineer, he's an entrepreneur, and for the third in the trifecta, and Dean Levin stole my thunder, he actually sold his company to Google. So it doesn't get any better than that for a Stanford GSB success story, and John, once again, we're in awe of what you've accomplished. So the reason why I waited until Monday to get started on these remarks is a very good one. We at Moody's Corporation had our quarterly earnings call on Friday, May 5th. That process takes a massive amount of preparation. You see, what I do is the opposite of what John does. I'm a public company CFO, we're in financial services, and we're a regulated industry. It is not very sexy. In fact, it might be the opposite of sexy, and I doubt there's one student at the GSB today who aspires to do what I do. But more on the upside of that in a minute. So let's take a few steps back in time. I came to the GSB in 1984, 33 years ago, and it was an election year. I was old. I was 26 for the GSB. And Ronald Reagan was president. Madonna had just released Like a Virgin. Madonna is the same age as me, 58. Just thought you should know that. And totally absent Madonna we were well along in the Reagan-era defense buildup following the aftermath of the Vietnam War. My timing was really good. A minor recession had just passed. Junk bonds were just getting started. Mike Milliken and Drexel were famous. Nobody had been indicted yet. And everyone, well, almost everyone, wanted to be an investment banker, except for those few bizarre GSBers who wanted to be consultants. And I never got those guys. So after being an Army officer for 4 years, as Dean Levin said, or as Nathan said, I'd applied just once and just to Stanford, and I was accepted. Now, I've told my own kids, do not do this under any circumstances, and my son Andrew is applying for the class beginning in September of 18, and he's going to have to do more than one application. So I had a tough decision to make because I had a plan B. I always have a plan B. I was an Army officer, you have a plan B. So I had received a White House fellowship. And that was a tough choice to make, White House fellowship or the GSB. And it was an election year, so the administration could change. So I was advised by someone important to come to the GSB, because if you're with the wrong party when the administration changes, that's bad. So I was advised to do that by somebody you've probably heard of, a general by the name of Colin Powell. And so I took his advice. He was afraid of, political complications at that time, and he was right. So I came to the GSB. So I came in 1984, and veterans were not very cool. We were cool to ourselves. We were cool to each other. We stuck together. We discussed our class schedules in military times, using military acronyms. I bet you guys do that. Nobody knows, that 1900 is 7 o'clock. I just don't get why civilians don't get that. Anyway, we chuckled at our very young civilian colleagues, all of whom, every last one of whom, were rich, sophisticated, good-looking, and went to Ivy League colleges, every one of them. And they all, however, were about 12 years old. I bet you've seen some of those folks. So, however, these younger, better-off folks seemed a little bit panicky when the grading thing was bad. And we old vets pretty much shrugged off the challenges of the first-year grind. When you've been shot at, when you've had soldiers die in your arms, when you've been in charge of millions of dollars of equipment like John was, it's pretty tough to get worried about a bad grade on an accounting quiz. So fast forward, comparing 1984 to 2017. The veterans here are much better organized. They even host this impressively logistically complicated dinner. They are rock stars amongst their classmates. And this is incredible progress, and I thank everyone who helped make this process happen. In my time, we were in the closet. Being in uniform was not respected. In fact, when we did parades at 6th U.S. Army at Presidio, we marched in formation, and we were still jeered at in 1983 as baby killers. And I was spit on in San Francisco while leading a unit parading through the streets of San Francisco, 1983. Now I hear something different every single day. Thank you for your service. We never heard that in the 80s, ever. And the world has changed for veterans now. The unemployment rate for veterans at 4.3% is lower than that of the general population, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And that is a great change. All right, so now's the fun part for me. I get to give 3 life lessons because John said we should do 3 life lessons, and I'm not creative. I was an Army officer. So, they might sound a little trite, but bear with me. They're hard to accomplish in real life. So number 1, choose your team wisely. In study groups, I always look for people who are different from me. I have an undergraduate BS degree in finance, so I look for a poet because creativity is not my strong suit. I couldn't get used to calling 1900 hours 7 o'clock. I had problems. So I learned this lesson from the military. Sometimes the shortest, fattest, least strack soldier, that means the least impressive physically turned out soldier, can speak the right dialect of Farsi and save the team's life. Trust in the team is really, really important. So at Moody's, we live this because our team includes Warren Buffett, and I work for Warren. Warren owns 13% of Moody's. But we can't talk to Warren because he runs a rated entity, and we're regulated. And I know this doesn't resonate with any of you who work in the tech industry, but in the rest of the world, and you're all going to learn this, regulation is a thing. I would note even some of the folks at Uber have picked up that regulation is a thing. And we have real problems in Europe because of those guys at Uber. I'll be honest about that. But going back to the story about Warren, we can't talk to Warren because he runs a rated entity, and we even had to downgrade Warren Buffett a few years back. That wasn't a great day. So we can't talk to Warren, but like God, we know he's there. He trusted us, he stood by us during the financial crisis as our stock fell to $17. He did sell some at $26.10, so that means he wavered, but he never gave in. That was about 6 years ago. And last week, mid-April, Moody's stock hit $119.43. So if you believe Warren Buffett is flawless as the world's best investor, please keep that story in mind. So Warren trusts us, we trust him. The fact that Moody's performs pretty well and we have a 43% margin helps us a lot. And for those guys those of you who know what Apple's margin is, it's less than ours. Think about that when you invest in tech stocks. So with Warren on our team, it doesn't get better than that. Second item, easier one, do the right thing always. Now that sounds stupid, very simple. I think about our administration, and I think I might send them this talk, but anyway. I'm a moderate Republican, but I didn't vote that way, just so you know. It's a little bit less easy to do the right thing when your boss, my boss is Ray McDaniel, who's a lawyer, who's CEO of Moody's, and Mr. Buffett have to testify in front of a congressional hearing as a result of the financial crisis. That really happened. You can Google it, June 2nd, 2010. The entire company watching with bated breath. Would we go on? Was the company going to be out of business? The toughest day of my professional life. Ray McDaniel treaded a very thin line between saying and doing the right thing and our lawyers and shareholder lawsuits. Another thing that I don't think the business school teaches quite enough is the degree of interplay with lawyers and litigation that you're going to face in your lives. I really think you should focus on that more. So anyway, Ray admitted that we were incorrect about the correlations in the US mortgage market. Warren Buffett, sitting to his right, admitted the same thing. Now, I don't know if Alan Greenspan or the Fed ever got around to admitting maybe they got it wrong on US housing. It's tough to admit that you're wrong, and our lawyers didn't love the idea. Still, if you figure out what the right thing is and you do it, it will probably be for the best. Now, Moody's is 110 years old. We got through that. The company is worth $23 billion. That's why we make tough calls. And on the ratings front, we make tough calls, and sometimes cities, we are calling out to you, Chicago, and sovereigns and companies don't choose to publish Moody's ratings. We're the opposite of popular. That's because they may not like what we had to say. So they choose not to make it public. We do the right thing and we do it quietly. When something doesn't have a Moody's rating, the absence of that rating speaks volumes. It costs those issuers 25 to 50 basis points more to pay up because the Moody's rating isn't there. Investors assume there's something they don't know. And that's market power, which is based on doing the right thing. So, the third thing, be relentlessly organized, but be your authentic self. Most of you here at the GSB are well organized. I seem to think that the veterans are particularly well organized, so thank you for that. But I needed to learn to relax a little bit and be my authentic Army officer, airborne qualified, marathon running, female M&A, oil and gas banker, mother of four self. And I'm happy to report that the second son, William, and my ex-husband is Cuban, so his real name is Guillermo Lopez Balboa. My eldest son is Andres Lopez Balboa. Those kids, the first two are now working at Goldman Sachs. The second one is going to be an analyst there in oil and gas, yes. Aside from getting them all ready to be consummate professionals and excellent Stanford MBA candidates, I learned a few things. I learned, if you think about life as a Goldilocks analogy, too hot, too cold, just right. I learned that the Army, while it's very philosophically and emotionally rewarding in many ways, you have the team, you have each other's backs, there are some downsides to the Army. It pays poorly, and you can get killed. So that's kind of a problem if you use the Goldilocks analogy. The Army is too hot. On the other hand, I went completely to the opposite extreme, and I went to First Boston. I did mergers and acquisitions in 1986. It was the hottest firm on the street. I worked for Bruce Wasserstein. I worked for Joe Perella, who had also gone to Lehigh. We had so much swagger. It was unbelievable. And that group said, if we have to have a woman, we'll choose her because she was in the military. True story. So investment banking is very financially rewarding, but it doesn't do great things for your soul. There's not a lot of teamwork in investment banking. So in some sense, it's really too cold. It's too much to the other extreme. When I told my father I was leaving the military to become an investment banker, he didn't speak to me for like 2 years. So corporate life, though, I found is exactly right. And I would urge all of you to rethink your allergy to going into a corporation. Okay, in a corporation, you can choose your team, you can choose to do the right thing, and you can own the results. You're not passing in and out of companies. You're not doing a transaction and then another transaction. You own those results. You read those earnings results on earnings calls, and then you talk to investors about them, and that is really, really rewarding. Now, it's better and more rewarding if you have a really great first quarter like we just had. So for me, a public corporation is just right. And we came here, theoretically, everyone came here to be trained to be a CEO. That's the point of management education in the business school. So I'd ask everybody here to, get over the banking, and I'm sorry, guys, you have to get over the consulting thing. You really do. You have to get a real job. So get over the consulting thing. And I think we should all focus on embracing our inner CEOs, which is my authentic self. I hope to change a letter in my CFO title here sometime soon. So if I do, get that top job at Moody's or at some other company, Steve Denning, I think I will find that having been a veteran and having been here for 2 years at the GSB will have prepared me very, very well for a top job. So I want to thank you all very much for listening and for this award. I want to thank all the veterans in the group. And for this happy time when we can say it, let's thank all of us for our service. Thank you. Good night.
Linda, thank you so much for being an inspiration to the Stanford veteran community. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the evening. Thank you for coming and for showing your support and appreciation for military service. Have a good night.